Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's webcast entitled Real-Time Digital Marketing, the Ability to Leverage Now. Today's conversation is brought to you by Critical Mention and powered by Onstream Media. Please take this time to answer the polling question as it appears. To submit a question or comment at any time during the webinar, please click on the Ask a Question button located at the bottom of your screen. Simply type your message in the box and click the Submit button. Alternatively, you could submit your question via Twitter using the hashtag CMRealtime. All questions will be answered at the end of today's presentation. Also, Critical Mention has provided an overview available for you to download. Please click on the Material tab at the bottom of your screen to receive your copy. At this time, it is my pleasure to turn the floor over to today's moderator, Steve Shannon, the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Critical Mention. Steve, the floor is yours.
Thank you. We're pleased to have Rebecca Lieb with us today. Rebecca's approach to maximizing real-time marketing opportunities is a natural subject for Critical Mention, as our platform allows marketers, public relations pros, and all communications professionals to receive near-instant notification when important stories associated with their brands, industries, or competitors are found across more than 2,000 TV channels and networks, hundreds of radio stations, millions of online news sites, and major social media. In several quick clicks, users can instantly share, report, and measure coverage so they look good and their colleagues, executives, and publics are quickly informed. Critical Mention pioneered real-time media monitoring and continues to be the industry's leading innovator. We're on it, so you're on it. For those of you who don't know Rebecca, she's a strategic advisor, research analyst, keynote speaker, author, and columnist. Her clients range from startups to nonprofits to Fortune 100 brands, including Facebook, Home Depot, and Nestle, to name just a few. These brands turn to Rebecca for her insight on digital marketing innovation. Rebecca used Critical Mention's real-time media monitoring platform to get up-to-the-minute content of events unfolding at the Cannes Lion Festival, where she was conducting some of her research for today's presentation. On behalf of everyone at Critical Mention, I'm thrilled to welcome Rebecca to our webinar and hope you will enjoy this demonstration of how her real-time marketing tactics and strategies work hand-in-hand with our first-in-class media monitoring solution. Rebecca, I turn things over to you.
Thank you, Steve, and hello, everybody. It is an honor to be with you. I thank you for electing to spend an hour of your day with us today. And what I'd like to share with you all today is some research I published on real-time marketing, why it matters, how it's best done, benefits, risks, and how to prepare for RTM. So I'm going to push the agenda. I'm just waiting to see if these slides are going to move. I think somebody might need to throw me the ball so that I can make the slides go forward. How we do? Let's see. I think I now have, yes, control of the slide. So now we can go forward. So here's the agenda. I've really broken my talk today into 4 chapters. First and foremost, defining RTM, because it's very useless to discuss any topic in digital marketing unless we're all agreed on what we're discussing. We'll go into benefits and risks, the 6 primary use cases I've identified for real-time marketing, and then the 12 steps that marketers have to adhere to prepare both themselves and their organizations to engage in real-time marketing. So let's start with the definition. It's really difficult to discuss real-time marketing without knowing what it is. So I've defined real-time as the strategy and the practice of responding with immediacy to external events and triggers. Real-time marketing is arguably the most relevant form of marketing, and it can only be achieved by listening to and or anticipating consumer interests and needs. And by consumer, that can also refer to a broader audience if, for example, you're a B2B organization. Real-time marketing is emerging not just because technology enables it, but because of changing customer expectations. Customers expect brands to respond, if not in real time, then in near real time. Over half of customers surveyed expect or want a response in under an hour from a brand. 38% feel more negative about a company when there's no response received to their query. Real-time marketing also makes a very, very big difference. It changes almost every attribute that a marketer is working on in terms of gaining favorability over a brand. They feel positive, they're more likely to try, buy, recommend, be interested in products or consider them, but at the same time, it turbocharges other marketing initiatives as well. Real-time increases word of mouth, social media mentions, search, and also receptivity to other media mentions of a brand, be they through advertising, PR, or any other kinds of channels. RTM has a lot of benefits as well. One very obvious one is to surprise and delight a consumer. I can tell you I'm talking right now from a hotel room where I lost luggage on my journey, reached out to the airline that lost it and got immediate response and immediate attention to my problem through real-time marketing and real-time response. That's the customer service aspect of real-time. It's also that holy grail of digital marketing that we've been talking about since the early days of email back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's the right message at the right time, but it's more right because it's more in the moment. All of that relevance shines a light and enhances the brand, and it also puts a brand in an always-on position, a position of constant receptivity, being there when a consumer wants it, needs it, wants to engage with it, etc. Now, one of the reasons I engaged in research on real-time marketing was when the lights went out at the Super Bowl, and Oreo made that now infamous tweet that was heard around the world, you can still dunk in the dark. You know, if you really hold that up to scrutiny, this isn't a brilliant tweet. It certainly captured the zeitgeist of a moment in time, of a moment in history, a moment in America, but I thought there's so much more real-time than that, than just this right tweet at this right moment, that I wanted to explore real-time more deeply and see what was really in it. So we've had other real-time moments. For example, when Arby's rocked real-time at the Grammy Awards and started tweeting back and forth about Pharrell's hat. When he won a Grammy and Arby's said, "Can we have your hat back?" It garnered a lot of amplification on social media, a lot of immediate cultural relevance. We've seen other brands then jump on that bandwagon. So successful with Arby's talking about the hat tweet that Pharrell said it was a win. Pepsi said it was a win, and other celebrities, other brands put it in the "we wish we could have tweeted it" category. So that really gets into the relevance and into the zeitgeist category. But there are many other examples of real-time marketing. JCPenney planned fake drunk tweets at the Super Bowl, and what they were trying to do was promote Team USA mittens. And the reason the tweets were so clumsy, as JCPenney later revealed, was because tweeting with mittens live on a phone is very, very complicated. So all kinds of playful, big brand uses of real-time marketing. But we're going into some of the challenges as well, not just the delightful, spontaneous moments. Plotting strategy and analysis of real-time can be very, very difficult. Real-time also requires major preparation and major training of the players involved. This is, to a certain extent, seat of your pants marketing, So preparation is really the primary barrier against the potential for risk and reactivity, all the things that can go wrong in real time. And real time, therefore, requires a shift in mindset culturally. These aren't campaigns that get approval from legal and get red penciled for weeks before going live. These are campaigns that happen in real or in near real time. And they also create the risk of culture jacking, of taking advantage of news in ways that are not appropriate. We've seen Kenneth Cole fail in real-time marketing when there were protests in Cairo. Kenneth Cole very clumsily tweeted, "Oh, they're in an uproar. They must have heard that our new spring collection is now available." So Kenneth Cole was being a little bit tone deaf and responding, in a fashion sense and an insensitive sense to a situation that was about human suffering, politics, violence in the Middle East, and many things that perhaps should have been, hands-off material for a fashion designer and shoe manufacturer. So in order to understand real-time marketing better, let's take a use of how real-time is primarily used, where it can be used, and why, in fact, a marketer or an organization would be interested in real-time marketing. And these are the use cases that I've identified in real-time marketing, and they fall on this axis of planned and unplanned events and reactive and proactive marketing. So as a marketer, where you really want to be with real time is in the planned and proactive quadrant of this chart. That might be a brand event. So, for example, a company webinar, just as I'm doing now. We know what we're going to be talking about. It's a fairly contained event. We know when it's going to take place, etc. There are other anticipated events around this, such as a product launch or a Super Bowl or a Grammy Awards. Unplanned events can be the most disruptive and reactive type of real-time marketing. This might be a customer interaction. Where's my baggage? You didn't deliver my order. I got the wrong item. And it could be breaking news. A volcano erupts, a war breaks out, protests happen. It's very, very difficult to plan for a breaking event that's completely unanticipated and unplanned. There are other reactive types of planned events. There's location-based marketing, and this might be based on beacons, on sensors, on Bluetooth. All kinds of new technologies are making real-time both planned and reactive. And there's also predictive analytics that can, like retargeting, make assumptions and push messages to consumers in real time that may or may not be relevant. I've recently done research on this, and just to give you some examples in real life, auto dealerships are installing beacons to push messages to consumers who walk in the door, but because auto dealerships have a showroom to the right and a service center to the left, you'll get different messages based on whether or not you're coming in to get your vehicle serviced or whether you're in the market for a new vehicle. So this kind of context coupled with real time can make marketing much, much, much more relevant. So let's go into brand events. Planned and proactive real time might be around a conference, product launch, media event, or a customer event. And they're really super easy to plan for because you can prepare your content strategy and your execution in advance. You can also staff up and have people there who are ready for perhaps create creative on the fly, or even approve that creative on the fly. I can tell you that when Oreos did that infamous Super Bowl tweet, they had an entire war room at their agency, all credit due to 360i, and that room was filled with people from the brand. It was filled with creatives, account people, legal. Everything was being done in the moment to ensure that real time was approved and within guardrails. So what's great about this type of real-time marketing is you get very, very few surprises. Things are as planned as they can possibly be. So another example, going away from tentpole events like the Super Bowl, is Salesforce using Facebook and Facebook's app to stream live brand events. Salesforce has conferences all over the world. They have infamous keynote speakers, headlining music acts, and so they make these events and these speeches and these keynotes available to anybody who wants to tune in, not just the people who are actually on site. Another example are anticipated events. This is the tentpole stuff, your Emmys, your Super Bowls, and your Grammys. And very much like brand events, you can have locked and loaded content in terms of both strategy and execution, as well as staff available to engage, react to posts in the moment, do some analysis and data analysis on the fly. And this can really showcase the brand voice and be very relevant. In fact, Linda Bopp, who's the CMO at GE, recently said that company wasn't going to be involved in any more advertising or marketing unless it was around these really anticipated tentpole events that they could be even more relevant with. A great example of an organization preparing for these types of events is what HBO does during the Emmys. They don't know what they're going to win, but they know every category that they're nominated in, and they know every other nominee in every other category. So what HBO does is, well in advance of the Grammys, they prepare content for every possible outcome of every awards ceremony, and then they just push it live as soon as the envelope is opened. This not only is very prepared real-time marketing that is locked and loaded, but it is also the type of marketing that allows their real-time staff to do the stuff that's really in real time, maybe comment on an actress's dress or make a joke about an actor's speech or anything that is unanticipated. They've got their hands free to deal with it. Starbucks does very much the same thing in terms of weather. So when there's a blizzard going on the East Coast, Starbucks is going to start pushing cocoa, warm coffee beverages, etc., and hashtagging those with words like Nemo and blizzard and snowstorm to attract consumers' attention. In fact, during one very unexceptionally warm fall, Starbucks hadn't prepared any cold beverage real-time marketing and attributed a fairly significant loss of revenue to the fact that they couldn't promote cold beverages when there was an unexpected heat wave. So use case number 3, location object-based. This is based on GPS, NFC, beacons, and sensors that are reacting to locations or actions, and they tap into these triggers like that one I just mentioned about the automotive showroom, and this can prompt an offer or an action in real time. So, today only get free tires on your premium tires on your new vehicle versus a free oil change if you get some other service thing done with your car. And this type of real-time marketing is rocketing in possibilities as well as in relevance with the growth of the Internet of Things. So we've got a lot of context and a lot of relevance now being made possible when things are the right person, the right time, and the right place simultaneously. It really pushes the boundaries of what can be done in real time. So one example of this is a partnership between Taco Bell and Waze. So when you're driving and using the Waze app and you're in the neighborhood of a Taco Bell, you'll get a specific offer or a specific message incentivizing you to visit that Taco Bell. But it's even more relevant and more in the moment because they're not trying to kill you. They will only push this message live when you're stopped at a light, not when you're driving your car and you're supposed to actually be paying attention. Another example of this location-based relevance is what MGM Resorts is doing. When you check into the resort and you have a loyalty card with MGM, your phone is your room key, but it's a lot of other stuff. As you navigate around the resort, it's going to send notifications for nearby restaurants. It might send me a show notification because it knows I like to go to see Cirque du Soleil. It might send you an offer for the bar because it knows you like cocktails. So it's based on your geolocation, your membership status, and your preferences and your purchase history. So super relevant, super real-time, and super contextual. The use case number 4 is predictive analytics-based. These are branded actions that occur as a result of things like your browsing history or your purchase history. And this can also be combined with other marketing solution data sets, such as marketing automation or customer relationship management. This is a type of real-time marketing we expect to grow considerably as data solutions become much easier to implement. But I'll give you an example of what this is like now. When you walk into a Walgreens and you check in on Foursquare, you will immediately be pushed a scannable coupon. And this coupon is going to be based on what Walgreens has on sale this week, but it might also be based on your purchase history. But of course, you're not going to get this coupon until you're actually at a Walgreens and you're actually in a position to use this offer in the moment. Marketo, the marketing automation company, tracks and scores engagement to automate relevant content and therefore to enable marketers to nurture their leads. This is a fairly advanced result use of the platform, but it is an example of what can be achieved now with early stage content matched to what people are doing in the moment. Customer interaction is use case number 5, and this falls very much into the unplanned and reactive area of real-time marketing. I lost my bag. I can't access the internet. My cell phone won't turn on. This can turn into crisis management, and it requires a lot of reactive and anticipatory work. It requires triage workflow. I'm going to show you an example of some real-time marketing triage charts. It requires a crisis communication plan, which means anticipating what can go wrong and how you're going to deal with it, determining what will be responded to and where, empowering staff to respond in the moment and knowing that they can be trusted to do so appropriately, and coordinating across functions, not just marketing, but also customer service, maybe IT, maybe legal, lots of shareholders involved in this type of interaction. So it doesn't always have to be negative. There's a brand called Pretzel Crisps, which is a snack food, and they use social listening across Twitter to see who's hungry. People tweet, wow, I'm sitting at my desk. It's Thursday afternoon at 4:30 and I'm kill for something to eat. And Pretzel Crisps will jump in and say, are you hungry? You should really have Pretzel Crisps. And in order to surprise and delight users, they have been known to actually show up at people's office with a gift basket of Pretzel Crisp snacks that then impel users, of course, to take pictures, to retweet, and to amplify Pretzel Crisp's message that they're delicious, they're there for them, and they're just a lot of fun. You can see that this message says, if you DM us your address, we'll personally deliver some snacks to you right away. Let's see, I'm trying to advance the slide here. bear with me. Okay, USA Networks, where I used to actually work many, many years ago, is interacting with fans in real time with character chatter. So when you're a fan of a show, you can talk live with the actors, with the characters of the show, ask them questions, engage in banter, and become deeply, deeply, deeply engaged with a show that you might be a light fan of. This real-time interaction really deepens the relationship between the fan and the show. Breaking news, another real-time event, is reacting to unanticipated events with legitimate and relevant messages. This is super difficult to prepare for. This can be emotionally charged, and you really have to be sensitive. Otherwise, you risk culture jacking, which was that Kenneth Cole example I showed you earlier. And this requires creative, collaborative approval processes so that you can really be agile and really be reactive. One example was when there was a typhoon in, I believe this was the Philippines. Coca-Cola suspended all of their ad spend during the crisis and instead donated those monies to typhoon relief. So great PR for Coca-Cola. They looked engaged, they looked sensitive, they looked altruistic, and they weren't taking advantage of a tragedy or a bad situation. When that Icelandic volcano, the name of which only Icelanders can pronounce, erupted, Eurocontrol responded to the crisis on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, creating alerts. They used a hashtag called #ashtag because of the volcanic ash and EUVA to talk about the ash cloud. And their followers included news organizations, aviation organizations, travelers. As you'll remember, a lot of people were stranded during that disaster, and they became a very, very relevant brand for the duration of that weeks-long tragedy. A more negative example is Epicurious, which found itself in a bit of a bad situation after the Boston Marathon bomb explosion. They were tweeting, "Boston strong, make cranberry muffins," cranberries, of course, being associated with Massachusetts, and were completely oblivious to the fact that a tragedy had unfolded at the marathon. The converse of real-time marketing in this situation is, I can't mention the brand, but one brand was listening, found out that there was an explosion at the marathon in advance of the news breaking, and immediately pulled all of its advertising and all of its live tweets from the event so that they wouldn't look insensitive as Epicurious had during that tragedy. This is where I used critical mentions tool to look at a very recent event, the Cannes Lions Awards that appeared last week. And this is just an example of the chatter around one of the biggest events that happened at the event when Publicis' new CEO basically dissed the awards and announced that no Publicis agencies were going to participate in any more awards or any more conferences for the next year. You can see that WPP, a rival holding company, voices doubts about their decision, and you can see that a lot of commentary, publicity, reaction can be leveraged in these real-time moments, in these breaking news moments that are vital to your industry. I would assume that all of you out there are involved in this industry somehow. So it's just an example of scanning the news, using listening tools to monitor the news, and then perhaps providing opinion or thought leadership around these events to appear more relevant and to appear or to be plugged into the real-time nature of your industry. I'm going to skip this polling question, and I'm going to go into 12 steps to prepare for real-time marketing. So, it's always wonderful when it turns into 12 steps and you're talking into real time. So you can use a wonderful metaphor like the hands of a clock, which is, of course, relevant to real time. But really, this kind of breaks into, to extend a metaphor perhaps very unnecessarily, planning strategy and planning execution. So let's go through these 12 steps for making your organization ready for real-time marketing. And we're going to start with the planning strategy steps, which are the first 7 steps for planning for real-time marketing. The first step is listen and learn. Lay the foundation of your understanding, goals, and content strategy. Real-time listening, you listen to your customers, you listen to competitors, you listen to industry buzz, you pay attention to events, you read the news. Analytics tools are going to help you track and benchmark this. It's very, very, very important that listening precede anything that you do in the real-time arena. Number 2 is define your business goals, which is, of course, a truism for any type of marketing whatsoever. But how is real-time going to serve you both at the business level and at the program level? Are you trying to boost brand relevance and favorability, consideration, purchase, any of the funnel functions? Or are you going to benchmark these goals to help justify the program and to expand it across functions so that executives will buy in? Can you make the claim and prove the claim that it will help customer service or provide more relevance for consumers or enhance their experience? This has got to plug into business results somehow. Otherwise, it's a wasted effort. You need to integrate with content strategy. Content is the foundation of all marketing. That's the title of my new book, by the way, that comes out tomorrow. I'm doing a shameless self-plug, Content, the Atomic Particle of Marketing. But content is going to provide the reference point for rapid decision-making and rapid publishing. You have to have a content strategy and training to understand your voice, your point of view, tone, messaging, and values. And of course, this strategy is going to help you to create the locked and loaded and evergreen content that brands like HBO produce well in advance of any real-time event so that they can respond more appropriately in the moment without scrambling at the last minute. This is something that Sabrina Cagliari told me at HBO. To develop a brand compass, if you don't already have one, set boundaries and understand what makes sense for you to participate in and what time something doesn't make sense for you to participate in. That way, every time something is trending or something is happening, your entire team isn't coming up to you saying, do we do this now? Do we have to do this now? You really need that strategic framework to decide what you're going to address and what you're not going to address, because you can't handle everything. Pepsi has a Live for Now slogan, and around it they've built Pepsi Pulse, and they integrate real-time news content into an evergreen content hub. It's constantly refreshing. It's constantly changing. It's really an algorithm that curates content, and it's always changing. But it makes the brand look relevant, and it makes the brand look very with it from a content perspective. Real-time marketing also is obviously a channel strategy. It dictates where content is going to be. And obviously, social media is a huge part of this. I've showed you numerous examples from Twitter and Facebook, but also some from LinkedIn and news results. So you really have to figure out where your audience is going to be and what the top real-time marketing channels are going to be and how they respond to temporal and cultural differences. Maybe you're going to have a different real-time Facebook channel in Europe than the United States to account for a 6-hour time difference. Ditto Asia, the Middle East, etc. So the critical channels for real-time marketing, and I'm sure this isn't going to come as a surprise to any of you, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Reddit, Facebook, and, probably Snapchat is now quite up there as well. One example of one of these very channel-specific campaigns is Mini Cooper listening to social buzz, where they're going to throw content, when, and, how. So they're tapping into conversations, finding that they've got Facebook followers in the Northeast and creating real-time content just for those followers. And as you can see, with a snowstorm, rather than how they talk to their followers in Southern California who would want and expect very, very different messages. You have to define the time element and expectations of real time. And real time is not always going to be 24/7 for all organizations. Most organizations really can't be on all the time. Maybe it's just going to be for the Super Bowl or the Grammys or that brand event that you have. But decide how you're going to publish and how you're going to react in real time based on your own organizational capabilities. I like the way that Halo BCA has done this. They average a 3-minute turnaround for 90% of all of their customer inquiries on Twitter. And that's a pretty good turnaround time, but that's not going to be necessarily right for every organization. Dell has a policy to respond to all inquiries within 2 hours, much broader framework, in the channel in which it was received. So if you contact Dell on Twitter, you'll hear back on Twitter. If you contact them on email, you'll hear back via email. I think that makes a lot of sense, but your mileage is going to vary depending on who you are and what your capabilities are. My friend Jason Miller, who runs content and social at LinkedIn, talks about how long real time can last. And he says it lasts as long as the volume of conversation is still there. Push it out as much as you can. It could be 2 days. It could be 2 weeks. If your customers are still talking about it, you still want to be there. So it might be a moment as brief as the lights going out at the Super Bowl. It might be something as long as a volcano that shuts down air traffic in Europe for, weeks or even months. It's impossible to always anticipate how long real time is going to go on for. You need guardrails and trust, and you need to streamline processes. So in order to do this, simplify legal approval to yes and no. It's funny, when I was talking to organizations doing this research, I thought all of them were going to say legal was the biggest stumbling block. But the ones that are doing this successfully said legal isn't a stumbling block at all. We have a great relationship with legal. And when you push and you ask why, it's because they go to legal before they get involved in initiatives and tell them what they're going to do. Put the guardrails in place, have the teams on deck, create playbooks to build confidence and to socialize the rules, and then problems become much less prevalent. Symantec does this by asking all their employees to answer 3 questions before posting anything live. Does this create brand risk? Could this impact the company or myself negatively? And finally, and best of all, would I want my grandmother to read this? So if it passes the grandmother test, it's probably okay to go online. You also have to anticipate negative RTM. It's going to happen, and the only way to be ready for it is to be ready for it, is to be prepared, to coordinate with comms, and to establish reactive and proactive guidelines. Reactive guidelines are acting human, deciding when, how, and where to respond to messages, and creating plans for action, whether it's an apology, an improvement, or a response. Proactive is monitoring social buzz, monitoring news for development, staying agile, and setting alerts for keywords or mentions. And this wouldn't just be your brand. It could also be things like the names of key executives. You have to think it through. I mentioned this earlier. Listening helped one company avoid crisis in the face of the Boston Marathon. They pulled an infographic from Twitter, and they pulled advertising so they wouldn't look insensitive and promotional while a tragedy was unfolding. Mountain Dew had an ad that was interpreted by many to be racist. They amplified their apology with promoted tweets as well as responses in other media. And then we get into the second half of real-time marketing preparedness, which is the planning and execution steps. And I'm going to conclude by going quickly through those steps. You need to assemble the right teams and the right tools. This is going to vary by organization, but this is the list of people that probably need to be involved, as well as the tools for publishing, listening, and analyzing campaigns that you're probably going to need. Many organizations are streamlining execution by taking a war room approach and putting all of these players and all of these tools together in one physical location, at least for temporary initiatives. And apply war room techniques based on the real-time marketing use case. Are you going to be planned and proactive? Is this something anticipated? Or is it unplanned and reactive, for which you want to maybe have a pre-identified and trained virtual team that you can quickly assemble in a crisis, and everybody will know their roles and everybody will know their positions, roll up their sleeves, and quickly get to work. Adobe assembles their key stakeholders every week to discuss real-time strategy and execution. They look at what events are coming up. They look at their own brand events, their upcoming campaigns, how this all aligns with strategy. They have stakeholders in the room, and they're as prepared as they can be and discuss this on a regular basis. This is what Chad Warren, who, I think I advanced one slide too soon, says about real-time marketing at Adobe. We don't need a lot of levels of approval. Everyone needs to understand their role. This helps us go from ideation to action much more quickly. So this is a constant state of preparation. This is a constant state of anticipation, but it keeps the brand relevant and it keeps the brand appropriate. So again, I mentioned this earlier. Oreos had a fully staffed war room available for that dunk in the dark tweet. They didn't know the lights were going to go out, but no matter what happened that night, they had an entire creative, legal, social, and brand team on board to make sure that they could address anything that did go on. And part of addressing what's going on is establishing triage, connecting cues and events to repeatable workflows, deciding in advance how you'll respond, identify what warrants a response, identify what does not warrant a response, and what other cues you're going to take into account. So this is an example of one brand's triage sheet. It's workflows based on positive or negative interactions. So was it a compliment? Was it an insult? Were brand guidelines misappropriated, or was foul language used? All of these let your workers and your first-line responders move to the next appropriate action confidently and within the brand guardrails. This is another example, I'm trying to push live here, of another workflow. It's a social media response flow chart. So these are all examples. Not all examples are going to be appropriate for every brand, but I think you get the idea of how to deconstruct possibilities and then construct possible responses. Train and test all parties. So just as you've anticipated, you have to train all stakeholders, and this can include community managers, people who are reposting and responding, social media, corporate comms, anybody who creates and distributes and approves content. And this, of course, also means internal and external stakeholders, such as your vendors and your agencies, some of whom might, of course, be doing this on your behalf. But overall, I'm finding real-time is really more of a brand initiative, or with brand participation and agencies participating with the brands shoulder to shoulder, than something that is completely outsourced. And this training has to include both strategic and executional elements. This is a checklist I'm happy to share with you all to help everybody understand their roles as well as where they're expected to jump in, as well as stay removed from real-time marketing initiatives. Analytics and KPIs are part of any digital initiatives, and real-time is no exception. Real-time metrics have to align with your overall brand metrics. And, of course, because real-time aligns with business goals, as we discussed in the beginning, you're going to be able to talk about the performance and measurement of real-time with content, but also align it with your paid, owned, and earned media initiatives to see how it's moving the needle for the brand. Real-time marketing can provide clues to decide what's going to go into your advertising creative in future dates. It can be a support hub for your own owned media initiatives, blogs, websites, etc. And in earned media, such as social, it can be a test bed for larger content initiatives and investments. Real-time, in short, can be a way of running things up the flagpole and seeing who salutes. And then periodically evaluate the scale of your real-time marketing initiatives. This is the final step. Do you need more headcount? Are you using too much headcount in your real-time initiatives? Do you need more tools? Do you need regional variations, language? And this always has to be aligned with a foundation of benchmarking against your key performance indicators and aligned with business goals. So that is the research as well as the best practices that I have conducted on real-time marketing. I think we have 10 minutes left into today's presentation, and I would really like to dedicate them to your questions. I know Chris is going to join me to answer questions from the group, so I look forward to hearing what your challenges and your, hesitations are, or how I could perhaps help you to use real-time more effectively or efficiently.
Hi, Rebecca. We've had one question come in that's quite good. What tactical steps do you recommend for dealing with a negative real-time marketing situation?
Well, again, it's hard to talk specifically, to a specific company or brand without knowing their situation, but that's where these triage charts come in. It's knowing what you will respond to, how you'll respond to, and what you also won't respond to is something so gratuitous or facetious or spurious that you'll say, thanks, but no thanks. If it's a real problem, you probably do have to respond. Very often the response is, let's take this discussion offline. So if, for example, on Twitter, thanks for reaching out. Would you please follow us so that we can have a conversation? We need more information from you, so why don't you DM it, because people obviously don't want personal contact information exposed on the Internet. Chris, do you have any more pointers around that?
No, I don't, Rebecca. So I'd like to thank you for being here today, and I want to thank all who joined us for the webinar today. I hope you found it as informative as I did. As I mentioned earlier, the Critical Mention media monitoring platform truly complements any real-time marketing or PR initiatives that require rapid response. If you're not familiar with the Critical Mention platform, please be sure to check us out at criticalmention.com, and while you're there, please set up a short demo. I think you'll find that it's a fast, easy-to-use, and overall great tool that will enhance your overall marketing or public relations productivity. Thanks again to everybody for attending. Thank you especially to Rebecca for such an informative and wonderful presentation. We look forward to hearing from you and seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. This does conclude today's conference. We thank you for your participation. You may disconnect your lines at this time and have a wonderful day.